Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on ABAP on HANA. In the last class, we have built an end-to-end OIA scenario using SQL script. We have seen how we can do a code push down into the database layer using our SQL script programming code. And we had created basically a SQL script procedure, which I also saved it into a SQL script session 03 file. And I have shared that with every one of you. Yeah. So this is what we have seen in the last class. We have created a get OIA procedure into HANA system using create procedure statement. Let me just quickly recall and execute that procedure for you into our HANA console. So I say call procedure name and it has an export parameter, and I just pass that export parameter as a question mark to see the result right away on the screen. So this is the data it is producing on the UI. You can see it is marking the customer which are relevant for high risk directly into the result set, and this is all based on a customizing table which we had implemented in the last class. The last class has become complex for majority of us because of having too much of SQL script code written into it. Yeah, so this has become difficult for us to understand, but hope line by line if you start writing the code you would definitely be able to achieve the desired result. Let me once again quickly just have a uh, brief overview once again to the code which we have written, because this code is now we are going to reuse and write a lot of things according to this code. The very first of the statement, we have done all the data declaration on the top of our program, and then what we have done is, so this is the data declaration, the variable declaration to catch the customizing parameters. Yeah, then what we have done is we have called a SQL statement to get the current date, which is today's date at runtime, because we have to calculate the average number of days since when invoice is open. And then we have read the customizing table to derive the threshold value per user per client. So if Mr. James runs the same code, he would get different result because he has his own criteria to define or mark a customer as a critical customer or a customer who would go for a default. But when I run with my user ID, it will be defining, I have my own criteria based on which I mark a customer as a risky customer. And that is all done in the customizing table which we had created. In the third step, we have got the gross amount per currency for given client. Remember guys, when you are writing or working with OpenSQL in ABAP programming, this client field, which is MANDT field, mandate field in all SAP table is being taken care automatically by OpenSQL. Okay, but when you are working with native SQL, this is pure native SQL code you're writing at the database level. Please make sure that you have to take care of client yourself. So this becomes the first disadvantage of using SQL script. So whenever you're working with SQL script procedures to do a code push down, this becomes the first biggest disadvantage or something which you need to be very cautious. So let me put it as a caution when working with SQL script procedures for code push down. Very important point guys. This is a big risk in the business. When you're writing some code, doing a code push down, you need to take care of all the client handling, because you are at the DB level. There will not be automatically handling of client the way it happens in OpenSQL. So unlike OpenSQL, there is no client handling, which means if we are applying any aggregation on data, this is applied on all the data of all the clients. Very important point guys, when you're doing a code push down using SQL script procedures. Okay, very important point. This is biggest disadvantage of using scripted procedures for doing a code push down. Okay, very important point. Hope this is all of you agree to this point. Very important point. That is the reason you need to be very careful. Second important problem, you need to take care of logical unit of work yourself. There is no LUW concept here. This is not managed by SAP. You need to take care of it. Third important thing, locking of data. When concurrent users are working with system, there is no implicit locking done the way it is done in case of SAP, because in SAP transactions you have a concept of data dictionary level called lock objects, where you manage the lock when multiple users are working with database tables and editing it. Okay, in such cases we manage the locking and unlocking of data using lock object concept, okay, in SAP data dictionary. But here, since you're directly working with database table, if at all you are modifying some data, please take care of locking yourself. This is a very critical point, guys. So these 3 points makes it, you know, a challenge when you're doing a code push down with procedure. So the easiest way is maximum time, which conditions your procedures are suitable. The procedures are suitable for cases where you actually have scenarios where you're just purely reading the data. Okay, you're just reading the data. In that cases, your procedures are actually suitable for those cases. So whenever you're reading the data, guys, that point of time you should go with scripted procedure. If your purpose is to write the data or update the data, probably this is not the best way or the best option. But we saw, based our experience, the majority of the operations are read operation in an ERP based application. 60 to 70% of operations are read operation, where you want to optimize the performance of read rather than write. In that case, you can go ahead with the scripted procedure. Make sure that you handle the client. This is very important interview question as well. And of course, drawbacks of scripted procedure or scripted code when you're doing a code push down. Okay, hope this is clear to everybody, the disadvantage of using SQL scripting. So big power comes with big responsibilities. At the same time, here you are getting big power, but you have a big responsibility to make sure that you don't disrupt your system. Okay, you don't disrupt. So make it as a thumb rule in your application, in your project, that whenever there is a optimization required in terms of read, you are going to use a procedure, and make the procedure read only. So by any chance, if somebody have written a write statement or a insert, update, delete, procedure won't allow it. Correct. So make your procedure read only. Make sure that you handle the client yourself, so that you don't aggregate the data of different clients together, which would produce, which is basically a havoc in the system. Actually, you're reading data for different clients is actually a very bad thing which you're doing. So make sure you handle the client properly. You don't edit anything, edit any data, and you also don't have to take care of any locking because you are not editing the data. Correct. So that's the disadvantage of using procedure scripted procedures. Okay, so then after doing this, we have also taken care here the client while reading the data for open item invoice scenario. And then next what we did is we have calculated join with business partner table with our gross amount data. That's what was the next step. And then we finally applied the currency conversion to a common currency in the system. And then after that, applying the currency conversion, we again calculated the aggregate total amount due for open invoices, because now your data is in common currency after currency conversion. So before currency conversion, your data is in, let's say, USD, JPY, euro, all the different currencies. After you apply, it comes to a common currency, so you can do a total up and then submission the final result for user. right, for open invoices. And the next step which we started was calculating the difference between today's date and date on which invoice was opened. Okay, invoice was opened. Is there the same way to handle locking in SAL script? I did not get this point. What question is this? Is there the same way to handle locking in SQL script? Okay, so no, in ABAP you have data dictionary concept to make sure of handling your logic, but here we make a transaction. Okay, in SQL script there is a concept of creating an autonomous transaction. You put your all piece of insert, update, delete statement in an autonomous transaction, and then until you do a commit, it is not going to update the database. So once all your transaction is completed, you will do a commit, and whenever you are updating the data, you have to put your procedure not as a read only, which means what happens behind the scenes whenever you try to update some data, or if I your update statement or insert statement, your HANA database locks the table for any further update for that point of time automatically, and until you do a commit or rollback, that lock is not released. Okay, that lock is not released. So you should manage your transaction handling using commit and rollback yourself. But typically we don't do editing of data, because here always we want to build analytical app on top of these new concepts which are mainly read optimized. Okay, so as I told you, majority of your operations are read optimized, so we always focus on read, not write operations. In real time also you will see nobody cares about optimizing write operations, because they are less as compared to number of read operations in a typical ERP system. Okay, so we don't care actually about writing, but just make sure in case in your project if they say no, do some writing also, then you need to do take care of these things yourself. But typically we don't do it at all. I have not seen any project till now. I worked on three ABAP on HANA projects. Nowhere they were doing any writing of data using SQL script. We were always optimizing the code using AMDP, using our HANA information modeling, or using CDS views. It's always read operation. Okay, we don't do write operation. We don't need to optimize, because operations are anyways optimized with the help of delta store concept, which we learned long back in SAP HANA architecture. Hope that answer your question. Okay, great. So after doing calculating this number of days, invoice days open, we have to calculate the average. So in the next step here, we are calculating the aggregate average of days open, and then next to that we have finally written the output in return table of procedure. That's what we have done step by step to be able to create this end-to-end procedure. And you see here we have written a case statement to finally tag the customer if the customer is probably a defaulter customer as a risk for me in according to my customizing criteria. Okay, hope this is clear. The flow wanted to just quickly go through, because in the last class I did it quite fast and some of you may not were able to understand the flow. So I felt it's important that I again go through this flow so that you all understand. I copy this once again and update the file into the notepad. I will update the same in the blog so you guys can download and try this out in your system. If you have your own production system in your company, or if you are probably using your cal server, you can definitely test this piece of code over there. Let's execute it, and then it should create the database procedure once again for me. What a nice change I want to do next here is create an input parameter for input currency code. So now I want to decide which currency I want to convert. So I can say ICURR, and let's say varchar of 4 and comma. So this is an input parameter now I'm creating in the procedure so that I can pass the currency code to which I would like to convert my data. Okay, so now if you just use that import parameter during your currency conversion, what you can do is the output currency which you had kind of hard coded last time. Let me just see. So target currency, we use this variable. Instead of this variable, now you can use the import parameter. So let's use ICURR, the import parameter, which we will pass to the procedure to convert the data into the required currency format. That's one change I'm doing now, just to showcase the capability of this stored procedure. How what else you can do additionally, you can definitely pass import parameters accordingly. So let's drop this procedure and recreate this. Drop procedure name, and let's execute. It should drop the procedure, recreate the procedure for us, and then we will be having an opportunity to pass the import parameter as a currency code to which the target currency conversion will take place. Okay, so let's come down and put this code also, the import parameter with currency conversion. So let me just put this code into our or maybe I'll create a new file altogether. So I just save it into a completely new file. Before that, let me test it so that nothing goes bad to your blog ultimately. So let me test it before I really save the file into the blog. So I will say call get OIA. And can anybody tell me how many parameters we do have it now in our procedure? Anyone? How many parameters we have it in our procedure now in total? What did we do exactly? We have now two parameters. One is the input and one is the output parameter. So input parameter is my currency code and the output parameter is the result. So let's run this. It's going to ask you a pop-up or basically a screen where you can now enter currency code. I say US dollar, and then it should convert all the data to the US dollar accordingly and give you the result. Okay, I can go back and now I can again run this and pass the currency code as euros, and this should convert now the data into my all my gross amount to euros, and it should give me the results. You can see it has converted into euros. So that gives me kind of a flexibility. If you want to do manipulation within your procedure, make sure that you offer parameters to the business users, sorry, to the developers. So if you offer parameters, it makes it easy for developers to consume your procedure rather than rewriting another procedure for same thing. Okay, so that's a good example of exposing the data, exposing the import parameter to a procedure for currency conversion. Let's copy this, put it into a different file altogether, and let me save this for your reference. So I will save this as end-to-end OIA using SQL script. This is what I will be uploading into the blog. So you guys can take this, directly test it, and it will work. So let's move on to the next one. So in last class, somebody was asking how to consume analytical view in your procedure, in your SQL script code, how to do that, which has import parameters. So let's quickly go back to our content. And if you remember, we had created here a sales package, and then we had created analytical views here, couple of analytical views to perform the OIA scenario. So what I will do is I will quickly show you how to call a procedure, sorry, analytical view first of all here into the SQL script directly, SQL using SQL code. So you can say select star from, that's it, your analytical view name, drag and drop, we're done. So you see guys, very important point to note here, it puts the schema name dot the package name to which it belongs. So you see it belongs to sales package, and then you can see over here that the analytical view name. Okay, let me execute it now. If you remember, we had also defaulted the currency to euros, so by default it gives me the result in converted currency as euros, you can see. But there was also an import parameter which we created. Let me open this analytical view. Hope you remember this analytical view what we created long back. It had an import parameter for currency conversion, and the default value for that was euros. So it will always give you result when you run the analytical view in euro currency. But since you have an import parameter, you can actually pass the value in the import parameter to get the value in a different currency. So you see this was the import parameter we created. I double click and you see we had also defaulted the value last time as euros. So now I want to call this in my SQL script procedure. So this was one of the question in the last class. So I will show you now the code snippet to call this in SQL script with the import parameter. So remember this parameter name. I copy the parameter name, and what I will do is I come here, I put the analytical model name or the procedure name, and then put parenthesis and put placeholder. Okay, placeholder equals to your placeholder name and placeholder value. You have to put it here. So in the placeholder here, you have to pass your import parameter name, comma, its value. What value you want to pass now? So import parameter value should always be passed with dollar dollar parameter name and again dollar dollar. That is the symbol which indicates that it's an import parameter. I put my import parameter name and I say pass the value as US dollar to this analytical view. When you want to run this analytical view, the import parameter value for currency conversion should be US dollar. This is the code to call a analytical model or information model with its parameter. Hope this is clear. This is what was asked in the last class. So this is the answer. Execute it, and now you will see the target currency to which it converts. The value will be USD. You see, converted gross currency is USD only. Okay. So if you just go back and put it to, let's say, euro once again, which is the default value, and execute it, you will see the target currency value now will be euros. Okay, so that's exactly how you call this. So I want to ultimately produce the final result. Yeah, of course I am hard coding here because I don't have a capability here for import parameter. Okay, further import parameter. Now I will create a procedure on top of it, and we will pass actually the procedure import parameter to it. Okay, I will create a procedure on top of it. That's what I will do now next. So let me go ahead and create a procedure on top of this guy. So how to call analytical view in the open SQL. This I had already covered. There are multiple ways. Can anybody answer this question? How to call an analytical view in open SQL? There are two techniques which we had already seen. I am not sure if you were there in those classes. If not, please look at the previous videos. Which are all the two techniques? Who will tell me? Who is daily practicing? Which are all the two techniques we have seen to call an analytical view? Perfect answer, Shilpa. One is view proxy, and second one, what was the another one? Anybody? Can anybody guess? We had discussed about one of the very important technique also to call anything or fire native SQL queries to database directly. Nobody remembers. Perfect answer, Shilpa. ADBC, ABAP database connectivity, where we used our programs. Let me show you. It's already there, I guess. The program I can show you quickly. So I can just come here. This is already covered in the previous classes. Please look at the videos. And you can see here there is the program calling an analytical peer proxy using the view proxy object. So we created a view proxy object, and with that we are calling actually our analytical view which was present, which was created. So this was an view proxy object which was created on which you can directly fire the SQL query in OpenSQL statement. Hope this answer your question. So please look at the previous video if you have missed that particular class. The another technique which we had used was using the ADBC call. And if I just come here, ADBC program, you can see here, this is also, you can fire directly a query. You see, this is your analytical view, which I'm just showing you, AN open item 1 using ADBC, ABAP database connectivity. Hope this answer your question, which are all the two techniques to call analytical view using ABAP. Okay, if you are only want using OpenSQL, yes, view proxy is the answer. This is already covered. The program code is also uploaded in our blog. You can download the code, directly paste it in your ADT tools and run it, provided you had created this object. Okay, let's create a procedure on top of this analytical view now in the SQL script. So I will just go ahead and say create procedure, and I say call analytical, and then I'm going to pass an import parameter, let's say I currency varchar of um, varchar of 4, and then I'm going to have an out parameter, And this is again, I'm going to create a var output parameter, and this I'm going to keep it as our table type, guys. So let's switch back to HANA dev perspective and look at our table type. So come to procedures, schema, and let's look at quickly the table type which we created for our output for our open item analysis scenario, ty OIA final. This is what we had created a table type for returning a table of results of our open item analysis scenario. So let's come back. So I close this view, and now it's ty underscore OIA underscore final. That's my procedure as begin and then end, and then it's pretty simple. Just paste that copy or copy paste that the query which we had already tested. And now, Charu, this answer your question. Instead of hard coding the currency, you can basically pass the import parameter of your procedure over here. Okay, you can actually do this. You can pass your import parameter of the procedure in here. Okay, you can also create a scalar parameter and pass that value. Anything is whatever you like, you can use it, but right now I don't want to make it complex, so you can just pass it like this, hard coded value as of now. And I also don't want this, just want to make it a simple procedure just for testing purpose. So I had hard coded this over here, and this result I am gonna store it into my local table parameter. So lt result from an analytical view, and remember we had already applied the currency conversion in analytical view directly. And now what I'm going to do is this view gives me lot of fields. So like you already saw in the console, it was indeed giving me lot of fields. Let me quickly once again show you the response from this analytical view. It was giving me multiple fields actually as an output, but I want only few of them. So for that I'm going to write an aggregation on it. So you can see it was giving me multiple values. So I want a company name, total of the gross amount, open number of days and average, and a currency code which is converted cross currency. That's what I want. So let's go back and we can actually test that query directly, or we can apply a query directly on this guy. So we can say lt or var out equals to select, and then you can say first is company name, second field in our result type is average days open. So we have to calculate average of what this is guy is giving, open days, average of open days. And this should be named as alias name should be according to your table type. So table type alias name is average days open. Of course I forgot as keyword, as this. Next field in my table type is currency code. So what is it returning here? Converted gross currency should be going as currency code, gross currency as currency code. Then next one we have it here as our sum gross amount in the table type, and here we have gross amount. So calculate a total for that. And then next field which we have is customer tagging, and of course we don't have any customer tagging in there, so I just right now make it this as blank. Of course you can implement further code here to read the customizing table and then process the data accordingly, um, do the complex calculation right into the SQL script and produce the final result. So and then finally a group by on the data, and this group by will be based on the company name of course, and then the currency code. The non-aggregated column should be participating in the group by clause as per the basic rule of the group by. And we are done. Save this and execute this procedure. Hopefully this is all okay. Let's execute and see if this procedure gets created. Syntax error as expected. So uh, group by company name, and of course I missed the tagging field, guys. So that's why it's giving me an error, I guess. So execute. Okay, it's still giving me the error. Let's quickly check what is it saying. Create procedure. I should not give alias name. So company name, converted gross currency, guys. Yeah, this is okay. And then customer tagging. No, customer tagging is even not required. Syntax error, incorrect syntax near group by. What is the problem? This should not be an issue. Let me run once again. Line number 10, there is an issue in the group by clause. Customer tagging. I think we have to use for currency code the alias name rather than the gross currency. Let me try this one. No, it's not still working. There is some problem. Let me just quickly check what's the issue. So let's go through the code one more time. So from the top, we first select the data from analytical view. After selecting the data from our analytical view, we are just calculating the total number of average days, gross amount, converted gross into summation, and these two things we are taking from the table and group by clause. Guys, where is the from statement? From which table are you selecting the data? Where is it? We missed it completely. So select these fields from where? This table, local table. That part I missed it completely. You have to use the main field names, and the field which you are calculating, literal which you are calculating here, not required to be part of your group by clause. Only the actual field name has to come up over here, and that's it. I think this should 100% work. Let's run it. Done. We are good. Let's go ahead and call this procedure. So that does the magic for you now. Procedure on top of an analytical view. Hope that answer your question which was asked in the last class. How to pass the parameter to your analytical view and call it from procedure. So call this now. So call procedure name question mark, and let's execute. You're gonna see the result for open item analysis scenario, what you have done into using analytical view now with the procedure on top of it. Though from ABAP side, you can directly call the analytical view like I showed you just now some time back to techniques. If you want to create a wrapper on wrapper, you can definitely keep creating wrapper. You can create another procedure on top of this procedure, and another procedure on top of this procedure, and another procedure on top of this procedure, and that procedure using a procedure proxy, and that you can call it in ABAP. Doesn't make sense for me. If I can call analytical view directly from ABAP, there are two techniques which I already demonstrated. You can better use that. Why somebody would like to do this, I don't understand. But yes, there may be cases where you want to read the data from analytical view, do the further processing, and then return the result. Definitely makes sense to call an analytical view inside the SQL procedure. But this one, in this case, doesn't make sense because your analytical view already doing the magic for you. Okay, we have already seen the result consuming from this guy using a view proxy technique. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Now, how do you consume the procedures in ABAP? Okay, how do you consume procedures in ABAP? So it depends on which version of SAP NetWeaver you are, or depends on your expertise. So the first thing, if you are on accelerator kind of scenario, if you are on older versions of NetWeaver, which means less than NetWeaver 7.4, okay, basically an accelerator kind of application, or where HANA DB is connected as a secondary database, and you want to make a call to the procedure, you have only option called ADBC, ABAP database connectivity. Okay, you have only this option to call your database procedure using ADBC. Now, before we do that, let me show you one interesting concept here. I will show you the concept of wrapper also. Just hold on. Let me continue with this. We will see a concept of wrapper also. Okay. I will show you that. So now what we will do is we want to call this using ADBC. So hope you all remember the ADBC program using CL SQL statement class. We had created a SQL query statement, and from there we have called it. We pumped the query to DB. DB returns you the result. Correct. So now we will see that technique to call a procedure. But remember this output parameter, what you see here, in order to call this directly in HANA, we have used a question mark. But when it comes to ABAP, ABAP cannot capture this directly. Okay, very important point here. In HANA, when you wanted to test this, you had put a question mark so that HANA Studio displays the result directly on the console. But when it comes to ABAP, ABAP cannot do that. So what you need to do is here in ABAP, you need to put null. Okay, when you're calling from ABAP, remember put null and do with overview. Okay, what it does when you call a procedure from ABAP like this, the system will not return any result, but it will result or it will create a temporary internal table in HANA database. Basically not even an internal table, it will create allocate some physical memory in HANA database, and whatever result this procedure is calculating and returning, that result will be stored in that temporary table. So HANA, when you do this, HANA will automatically create a temporary database table, and whatever result your procedure is creating or giving, it will store that result in that temporary database table. And once you invoke this, later point of time you call HANA and pass that temporary database table name where all the results are stored and query it. Is that clear? So when you calling a procedure from ABAP below NetWeaver 7.4, you have option only called ADBC, ABAP database connectivity. To do that from ABAP, you have to do two-step process. Step number one, call the process with overview syntax. When you call a procedure with overview syntax, HANA creates a temporary database table and pushes the result of the procedure into that temporary database table. Okay, and once that is done, you call next call to DB to read the data from the temporary database table. When I do it here in principle here in HANA Studio directly and execute, you would see it will execute my procedure and created a temporary database table. Here you see the table name is coming. This is the temporary database table. I can in principle use this temporary database table and fire a SQL query now on that temporary database table to see the result. Okay, is that clear to everybody? When you want to call a stored procedure in SAP HANA from ABAP before NetWeaver 7.4, what is the technique you have? 100% interview question. Before NetWeaver 7.4, if your system is below 7.4, which technique are you gonna use to call a stored procedure? You only have one technique, which is called ADBC, ABAP database connectivity. It's a two-step process. Step one, call the procedure with null return value with overview syntax. It will create, HANA will create a temporary database table, store the output of the procedure into the temporary database table. In then step two, call the temporary database table and pull the result and show it in ABAP. Is that clear to everybody? I'm repeating again and again. My voice is very loud today. I don't know why, but this is very important. You need to remember, guys, these things because it depends on version of NetWeaver. Okay, version of NetWeaver. Let's go ahead and try this now from ABAP. We will use our previous scenario because that is what I like, because in that I have also an import parameter where I can demonstrate the passing currency value and show you the output. So let me first just again call get OIA and pass two parameters. So here import parameter, I am hard coding now euro currency. So this is what we will do from ABAP. We will pass it in ABAP program and you see the result is coming. So let's call this from ABAP. Okay, get OIA procedure. Let's get into ABAP program, ABAP on Eclipse, and I'm going to do the magic now from ABAP, calling our procedure to produce open item analysis result from ABAP system. Let's go to it. Imagine you're working on NetWeaver 7.3, which is below 7.4. You only have ADBC as the technique. Right click over here, say new ABAP program, and I say Y demo, same fashion, same naming convention, open item analysis, and then using, or I will call ADBC technique, ADBC procedure. I'm calling a procedure using ADBC. I cannot take this big name, so let me just see if I can reduce. Okay, I cannot. uh, what shall I do? Hope you will understand with this example. I'm using ADBC to call a procedure. Okay, maybe we can use OIA. Yeah, very good point. We can use OIA ADBC procedure. Correct. Hope you will remember. Anyways, I'm going to upload this program in a notepad file into our blog. You can download and try that out. So calling HANA procedure using ADBC, two-step process. Remember the game. If you remember the steps, nobody can touch you. Click on finish. Let's go to the system and start creating it. So remember the ADBC program. We had an ADBC API which we used. If I quickly open the ADBC program here, this is the ADBC program. I'm basically going to reuse this piece of code to save a lot of time. Okay, so let me reuse this piece of code for basic ADBC program. So I will copy this and I will come here, paste it, and you see this is our ADBC program. So in this ADBC program, basically we prepare a query. So here we are preparing a query. So let me just prepare a query for our call procedure. So call procedure name get underscore OIA, and the first parameter I'm going to pass here as in curly braces an import parameter for my ABAP report. Basically I want to pass it a dynamic value, so I create a parameter currency code. Let me pass it as currency code, and in ABAP there will be definitely a type CURV table, and hopefully CURR table. No, what is the table name in ABAP? Let me just go and check the currency table from where I can take TCURR. Okay, correct, table currency. And I think we can use this FCURR, which is the currency code field, to create our parameter. Okay, and then I will pass this value over here. So this value now goes as an input parameter to procedure, guys. Okay, this will go to the input parameter to the procedure. In curly braces we are passing comma null. Okay, and that's your procedure called with overview. End of it. That's your first statement you are sending to database. This is the first statement you are sending to database, telling the database boss call this procedure. What it returns? What did it return when you called it in HANA, in HANA perspective? What did it return you? It return you an overview table. So if you say with overview, it returns you a temporary table name. It basically returns you a variable and table pair, in that your variable name will be there and table name. So let's create a temporary table, table type in ABAP program, which will hold the result, this result actually. So variable table, this result it will hold. So let me first create a type. So actually we don't need these types. I'm removing them. So these types, okay, we can use this ty my ADT for our purpose of final result set. Let's create another type for overview table. So begin of ty overview. So this is what is going to hold overview data. Okay, and then we have two returning values coming out, variable and table. So use variable type string, basically both are string values, and table type string. End of ty underscore overview. I think we cannot use table here because that's a reserved keyword. Let me do a quick check, syntax check, if it allows me. Yeah, it is allowing, then it's okay, fine. So that's my ty overview, and let me create an internal table for table overview, lt overview. Type table of ty ls overview. So first we will get the overview, guys. Okay, like line of our table type. Basically we can just use a type now because it's a structure type. So I will now use this LT overview to receive first value. So let's get the reference of LT overview in the dynamic data. And once you execute this query and map it to dynamic data and do this and close the SQL, here you're gonna get your overview table LT overview table filled. Okay, now you will say read LT overview table this into ls overview with key and your parameter name, your variable name is var underscore out. So when you do this, what you will get actually, what you are getting this variable table actually. In this, there is a parameter called var underscore out, and then at front of that, you will get the temporary table name, which is created in HANA. So var underscore out. Why am I doing this? Because there may be multiple parameter your procedure may return. So you have to explicitly tell which parameter temporary table name you want. After you got that parameter name, so in this you will get the actual table name. This is your table name now, which you can use to query the next ADBC, fire a next ADBC. So let's fire a next ADBC. So again, use our same set of objects and prepare another query and fire that. So let me prepare the query. LV query equals to select star from my next table, which I will put it here, this guy. This is my temporary table, which I am going to call now. Okay, this becomes my latest query, and then we already have a connection. Now remember, can anybody tell me if you're working in an accelerators type of scenario where HANA DB is working as a secondary database, where will you pass the name of database connection? Which API will you pass the name of database connection? Anybody? Do you remember the ADBC chapter? What if in case you're working in accelerator scenario where HANA DB is connected as a secondary database? Where will you pass your connection name? Nobody remembers. In the get connection API, you will pass it. If you look at the signature of get connection API, control space, and you will see here the connection name. Here you will pass your name of the connection which is created for secondary HANA as a secondary DB. But since in our case HANA is acting as a primary database for our ABAP system, we don't need to pass anything especially. Okay, so we already got this connection object on the top, so we no need to get it once again. We just have to also, we also got the statement object on the top. We just have to use this query statement to be built once again. And once this query statement is built, we will have to set now the parameter once again. So dynamic data will change now, and this dynamic data now has to point to the new database table, which is your final result type. Okay, so let's change this. So get reference of LT result table. Final result table, you will point this dynamic data now. So LT result will be of, LT table will be of this type, and here you have to now put the same type as what your output is coming in format. So for final output is in this format: company name, average days open, currency code, some gross amount, and customer tagging. So that's your final output. So let's create this type. Company name is there. Next property is average days open. So let me create it. Average days open. That's what is coming from HANA, type I. And then next is, it gives currency code and then some gross amount. So let me use currency code type string. You can use a character char4 also, not problem, and some gross amount, which is of type gross amount field, and finally customer tagging, which is a character, which is of type C, length 1. Is that clear to everybody? The output structure, I have prepared it according to what output structure my HANA table type is. And then that's it. Boom. We have this table created, LT table. Get the reference of this into your dynamic memory here, and then set param, pass this dynamic memory, next package, close. We will get all the data in LT table, and that's what we are finally displaying to the user on the UI. Let's save this, do a quick check on the program, execute it, activate and execute this. You're going to see the result now, using ADBC calling the database procedure to produce the required result. Remember, this technique helps you if you are below NetWeaver 7.5. Okay, 7.4. Okay, let me execute this. Maybe I will go ahead and execute this directly from here, and I say shoot, and let's run it as a ABAP application. And then you can see here it's asking me the currency code. Now I can pass euros. I want data to be converted to euros. Execute. Oops, very good, a dump is coming. It's good that a dump have come. Now you can see the exception type is of CX SQL exception class. Let's go to debugger and see which statement it dumped. Maybe I will connect directly to SEPQUI and see it from there. It makes it easy for me working with SEPQUI. I'm still not used to this UI much, and just quickly go to SAP GUI ST22 where the dump have come, and it got stored the information of the dump. And last dump was here. You can see uncaught exception CL SQL exception. Let's go to the source code extract where it has come, and you can see it has come somewhere here. I don't know. So what happens if you're calling uh, using ADBC? You definitely don't have a static code check. You can't do a syntax check. Whatever query you prepared, it may have something bad which would have caused this dump. Okay, so how do you handle such exceptions? So look at the exception class CX SQL exception. Okay, and handle this exception using this particular class. So what you can do is come to your program once again. So let me just come to the program, ydemo underscore oia underscore ADBC procedure, go to for change, and now here you can do exception handling to basically not dump it but drive the right information what definitely went wrong. Okay, so this whole piece of code, I'm blocking it into try catch block, and now here I'm catching the CL SQL exception into a local object which I'm creating on fly exception object. And what I will do is I will tell the system to just write me the relevant information of what went wrong. So write statement LOEX exception object and call get text method. This will tell me what exactly went wrong while submitting this statement to database. This is how you do exception handling in ADBC. So let's now move this entire piece of code inside the try block over here. And then now watch carefully, it will not dump. Okay, anything which is wrong, it's going to catch the exception and it's going to take the information out using get text method of exception object. It's going to print it on the UI. Let's activate it and execute and pass the currency code, and let's execute. And voila, you see it's giving me this empty output. But you see now invalid column name euro. See, this is the problem. Invalid column name euro. This is the problem. So it's, I think, considering in our query statement call get oia, and this guy, hopefully, I hope this is the culprit, call oia. Do you know the problem? Euro has to be passed as a literal into the procedure. If you look at our HANA, when we were calling this procedure in our HANA console, how we were passing euro? Do you remember? We were passing in single quote. But from ABAP, when you're passing now, you're not at all using single quote around this literal. Correct? So it is treating EUR as a column and it's giving you dump. That's how you should gaze it. So let's come back, update our program, and we should add a single quote around it. So let's add a single quote here, and then a single quote, of course, here. Save this, and let's activate it, and let's see what happens now. Execute it. Euro once again. Better I pass capital euro. Execute it. Still some problem. Let's close it. We'll see the error. You see now line number 18, column number 2, no data found exception. There is no data found exception. There's something going wrong in our SQL procedure. In line number 18, column number 2, there is some problem, and I think it is happening because of our query in our procedure. If you look at here, we had used session context parameter to get the current username, but now if you look at our username which is passed from ABAP is developer. Okay, but earlier when I was directly connected to SAP HANA, the username was used as Anubhav. So now SAP ABAP will pass the username to connect to SAP HANA as SAP A4H user. For that, there is no customizing available in our customizing table. If you remember, we are reading a customizing table and there's no customizing now for that user. So that's why it's saying no data found exception. We got to change this. So you see here we are reading this thing, application user. Let's remove this completely, recreate the procedure quickly. We are removing it now, that condition. So it will pick any random entry for that particular client, and it should find some data now in this DP custard table and should proceed it further. Let's try now without any further change. Execute again. Again, it is not working. There's some problem, and you see now it's a different error. See, so many errors, and every error is caught by the exception, and you will get to know the issue. Fetch returns more than requested number of rows. Exception fetch. There is some problem. Fetch returns more than requested number of rows. Now, what is this error? Maybe I think it's because of we have used the same dynamic data. Let me create another dynamic data for this guy. I'll call it data 1 and just pump it over here for our LT overview. We will put another dynamic memory, not the one which we created earlier. Okay, so we used another one, so that could have caused the issue. So I'm just gazing it. I'm not sure. This problem happens when you use it. Again, same issue. So let me quickly check it. There may be some problem. Let's debug the procedure where which statement is throwing this issue. So I put a breakpoint, execute it, and let's debug our ABAP program. Which statement is the culprit now, because we are not able to guess which is causing this problem. Okay, it's not even hitting my breakpoint. Let me just come back and try setting up a breakpoint again. Actually, it didn't even reach to that point. Let me try once again. It should hit my breakpoint. Then only I can find which statement is causing or throwing the issue. Okay, so let's see. And this time, hopefully, it is connected to breakpoint. F6 create statement. This is the query call get OIA. Pass euro here. Pass null with overview. Very important, so that it prepares an output. And you see here itself, it throws the error. The moment it is calling our procedure get OIA, and there is a space I can see, but would that make matter? Let me copy this piece of code and put it in my HANA Studio and test it immediately. Okay, let me test it over here. So I just test it directly over here. Execute. You see here also it is returning the same issue. See guys, fetch returns more than requested number of rows. See guys, same issue you're getting in ABAP. What a powerful exception handling technique. Tells you the issue. Now that could be because the call has a space before. Could that be the problem? Execute. No. Fetch returns more than requested. Let me just check what could be the issue. Is this null having space having issues? No. Then what? Did we create some problem with our procedure now? Yes, if you remember, I had removed the condition which is now giving more customizing records than what was expected. So that's the culprit now. So I think we should hard code the username for time being to test it from ABAP as Anubhav user. Let me hard code the user as Anubhav guys instead of customizing application user. Here I'm hard coding to user as Anubhav, so that this customizing table gives me that single record. Okay, I'm doing this change for time being. Execute. Done. And let's try one more time without doing anything directly from ABAP. I got to know the reason. I guess that's the problem, and I will just come back and execute one more time. It hits my breakpoint. Let's do step-by-step debugging once again to see if this time, if at all, it is failing or not. I press F6. It comes to this one. Executed. Perfect. It got executed. Press F8 and still I don't see some results, but there may be some problem, but at least there's no error. I think result is not coming because we are not passing the correct table now here to this. So what is the table name? It is LT overview, guys. It is not LT table. LT overview is the table name. So LT overview, no, LT table actually. So we have to assign LT table to dynamic data 1 and pass this LT table over here. Activate it. I'm 100% sure that it will bring the output for me. I'll just remove the breakpoints. I don't want them anymore. And let's shoot up. Pass the currency code. Execute. Perfect. You see, HANA database procedure got called from ABAP system using ADBC. Let's look at the runtime of this and compare this runtime as compared to what we were doing with analytical view. So you remember why we moved to SQL script is because your information model, if it doesn't give you the desired performance, you can go ahead and code things in SQL script, correct? So let's go ahead and try now the runtime. I want to capture the runtime for this. So we already have written in the past some runtime code. Let me reuse that piece of code to basically calculate the application runtime. So this is my attribute or analytical view code, how much runtime it was taking. We have some piece of code, this one, to calculate the runtime. I will try that over here now. So that's it, first thing, and then calculate the final time and just display the output on the UI along with the runtime, how much runtime it is taking. Okay, so let's come here and my final result is in LT table, which I'm going to print and execute. And let's see the runtime. So let's first see the runtime for the one which we use with analytical view. Y demo underscore analytical view. Here it is. Let's see the runtime for this guy. The old approach, it was 41 milliseconds. Okay, let me just execute one more time. 4134. Okay, let's say 41 milliseconds. And now let's see the runtime, the performance, how much time the SQL script based procedure is taking to execute and give me the result. Execute. Of course, you have to pass the parameter. Execute. See, 43 millisecond, and I think that is also doing almost same. But of course, I don't have that much of data in the server to showcase you the real difference. But definitely over a period of time, if you see your large amount of data, SQL script gives you more performance because you're performing or calculating things directly at the database layer using SQL script. If you've written a good SQL script code, it does all the currency conversion, it does all the processing for you in much faster way as compared to anything else for that matter. But by the way, both techniques, analytical view or attribute view and SQL script, all are code push down. They are better than our first program, which was, I think, I don't know how much time it was taking. Let me just show you the first program which we wrote uh, for open item analysis scenario SQL 01. How much time this was taking? Let me execute. 663 milliseconds to 43 milliseconds. You can see the difference in the time which it was taking earlier, and now with code push down to database 43 millisecond, be and using an information model or be using it as a SQL script code. Okay, so that is something you can judge better based on your application, which thing is giving you better performance. So that is all you can go ahead and try out in the system and then see the runtime, what has improved and what gives you the uh, best results is what you use typically, because you know now all the techniques, how to create information model and consume them, how to create SQL script procedure and consume them. Now comes to the disadvantage of this approach. The disadvantage of this approach, what we have done by far, calling a procedure using our ADBC. What is the disadvantage? Anybody, can you guess what is the disadvantage? What did you observe? What did you feel could be a disadvantage of using this approach? The first disadvantage, if you look at, no, not probably memory. The disadvantage is it's complex. See, how complex code is this? It's complex, so many steps you have to follow uh, to do this, right? So disadvantage of using ADBC approach. To call procedure, First is it's complex coding interface. Correct? It's complex. It's not that easy. I mean, you need to every point of time be very, very careful when you're writing this. Second, no syntax check at design time. When you're writing this program, if you do a syntax check, it will only just check ABAP relevant objects. But what is written here, okay, it will not check. Okay, what is written inside it will not check, because that's a SQL script code. Now if I put a wrong procedure name, it will not tell me if this procedure is correct. Okay, if I just save this, do a syntax check, it will say everything is good. See, everything is good, no problem, go ahead. But when you run it, it will show you the real face. Okay, when you run it, it will say procedure not found. You see, it didn't give me result, and say invalid name of function procedure. That's an exception which has been thrown at runtime. So until you execute, you will not know what went wrong if you've done something wrong. Okay, so that's a disadvantage of using this approach. There is no static code check at design time. While you're creating the program, you don't have an opportunity to check something. That's a disadvantage of this approach. Third disadvantage, which is of course remains same in the system, because you're using a stored procedure, you need to take care of client handling yourself. Okay, that's a third disadvantage of using this approach. So these two disadvantages can be overcome using another concept. There is a better way in SAP NetWeaver 7.54 onwards. We have a new concept called ABAP procedure proxy. ABAP procedure proxy is just like, you learned what? How did you consume your information model in ABAP? Anybody? What did we do? Today's class when it started, I told you what are all the techniques to consume an analytical view in ABAP. What techniques did we use? Anybody? ADBC and view proxy. So just like you use view proxy, which is a proxy object of your HANA database information model, similarly you can create a proxy object of ABAP procedure proxy. Okay, and you can call your database procedure using ABAP procedure proxy. With this, you can simplify the code. Okay, simplify the code, and of course you also will get don't need to worry about syntax check at the design time, because uh, it is automatically generated with signature itself. So if there's something wrong, you're actually not giving statements to database, you're talking to a proxy object created in ABAP. So this is called bottom up approach. Okay, this is called bottom up approach. Bottom up approach, where what you do is you have your database system. This is your HANA DB, and in HANA DB you have created what? What did you create in HANA DB? You created either an information model, which could be attribute view, analytical view, or calculation view, or you created a HANA procedure. Okay, or you created a HANA procedure. Correct. Now, how do you consume them in ABAP? To consume them in your ABAP stack, okay, your ABAP NetWeaver application layer, you have actually created a proxy object. For view, you created a view proxy object, and for your procedure, you're going to create a procedure proxy, HANA database procedure proxy. So let's go ahead and create a HANA database procedure proxy in the system and see how we can use the HANA database procedure proxy to basically consume the functionality of underlying HANA procedure into your ABAP stack. Just the way you created procedure proxy, and you see it's a bottom-up approach. Okay, something which already exists in database, you're creating a proxy. You're creating a proxy to talk to it. This is called bottom-up approach, in which your database object first be created, and then a proxy will be created for that database object. Is that clear to you, all of you? Do you all agree? It's a bottom-up approach, where you have something in database, you're creating a proxy in the ABAP layer. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a procedure proxy. So I will go back to our um, ABAP on Eclipse, and then I will just create it. Now remember guys, proxy objects are only supported and you can create them only with ABAP development tool on Eclipse. You cannot create them with your SAP GUI based UI. From your SAP GUI, you cannot create procedure proxy, neither you create a view proxy using your SAP GUI based interface. You have to use ABAP development tools to create procedure proxies as well as view proxies. So let's create one. So I'm going to use a existing procedure in HANA system, and I will just say right click and I'll say new other ABAP repository object and choose procedure HANA database procedure proxy. Say next, and now here choose the name of the proxy which you would like to create, and I say demo procedure PRX. Okay, so demo for procedure proxy. And now here you can choose the name of the procedure proxy. So let me just try calling a different procedure which is standard in SAP HANA system. For OIA scenario, it starts with DP underscore, and you can press control space here. It will give you the list of all the procedure. So you can see there is a procedure called DP open invoice amount, DP get customizing, DP cust to remind. Maybe I will use this one. This is a ready-made procedure which is there in SAP HANA for our open item scenario, and I'm going to create next. You can also attach this to a transport request, guys. So if you give a productive package here, you can attach to a transport request. Okay, this procedure proxy you can attach to a transport request. So basically, what if I just want to show you here in this, you can create a transport request. Okay, transport request, and attach this procedure proxy which you're creating to this particular transport request. That's what exactly we do. So you can attach this guy, this procedure proxy which you created. Same applies to the view proxy. You can attach the object to a transport request what you are creating to release it to the quality system. So we can give here a package and say next, and then we can actually attach it to a transport request and can say finish. Okay, that's what we typically do it. Okay, so now next, and I'm creating this in a local object. Test objects can be created in, cannot be created in foreign namespace. It should start with YOZ, guys. As you all know that any custom development which you do, it should start with YOZ. Very important. So that's what the name I'm keeping. And of course your, now what also it does is system behind the scenes creates an interface also for you. Okay, it creates a procedure proxy interface. This interface will include all your data types. So it reads the procedure, and it based on that it creates the data type in this interface. Say next, and I say finish. It will create my procedure proxy. So you see it has created procedure proxy, and this procedure has an output parameter called var out, which has this business partner ID, company name, average open days, currency code, sum, gross amount, customer tagging, all these properties inside a table type called var out. So it has created an interface. You can click here to look at this interface. This is the interface. You can see the type var out. That's an output parameter of procedure. It created a data type, a local table, local type for that. This will make it easy for me to declare data type when I want to call the procedure proxy and get the value from database. I will show you that in a web program in a minute. Okay. Now, as you all also know, if there is a change in your procedure in HANA DB, your ABAP related object is not in synchronization. Same thing happened in view proxy. If you remember, guys, sometime back we discussed that if there is a change in your information model, your ABAP layer don't know it. Correct. So you need to always synchronize the object if there is a change in the underlying database artifact. So you need to always synchronize. So this is one headache of using bottom up approach. 100% interview question: what are all the disadvantage of using bottom up approach? Okay, the first disadvantage is we need to synchronize our ABAP proxy objects whenever there is a change in them in database layer. Correct? You all agree with me? The first disadvantage of this approach, which we had also discussed in the past in case of view proxies, and then we said CDS view is why we use CDS view. That's the reason, because we don't have to take care of synchronization always in case of CDS view. Of course, there are more advantages. I'll come to CDS view. That's our next chapter. We're going to discuss that in the next class, hopefully. And then, so this is one disadvantage of using them. So now I have probably just now generated, and I know that nobody changed this, so I can go ahead and just activate this. Ultimately they are ABAP related objects now, so I have to activate both the interface and the proxy, procedure proxy. Okay, so let's click on this activate and choose both the interface and the procedure proxy, and click on activate button again. This will now activate my procedure proxy as well as the interface. And now I am free to go ahead and call this, and the calling becomes easier. The disadvantage of ADBC approach, complex code for calling and no syntax check at design time, both the disadvantages will go off. Which version of NetWeaver you have to be if you want to create a procedure proxy? Anybody? Which is the NetWeaver version? Of course, greater than equals to 7.4 onwards, you can start creating, consuming these artifacts using proxy objects. If you are less than NetWeaver 7.4, anybody, what will you use to call a database procedure if you are less than NetWeaver 7.4? Of course, you will use ADBC. This is 100% certification question. If you are going for a ABAP on HANA certification, this is 100% certification question. Which version you will be using? If you are below NetWeaver 7.4, what is the way you can call a HANA database procedure in a ABAP stack? Your answer should be ADBC only. If you are greater than equal to 7.4, then you can use procedure proxy and view proxy to consume HANA related artifacts. Is that clear to everybody? 100% interview question, 200% certification question. Okay, let's move on next. So now we will see how to consume this guy. So it's ready for us for consumption. So we can use this. Yes, ADBC we can use above 7.4. Always there is a backward compatibility what SAP gives. So if you can do something in 7.3, of course you can do in 7.4. And that's what exactly we did today. Don't you remember? Just now we called the procedure. The procedure, what did we do just now? We called the procedure using ADBC, guys, and we are on NetWeaver 7.5 actually. If you see here, we are on 7.5. So backward compatibility will be there. So don't worry about it. You can use ADBC. But who will use ADBC here? It is so difficult. Let me show you the easy technique. So use the program, make a copy of this and use ADBC. Use not ADBC. We call it as procedure proxy. PRO procedure proxy. So OIA scenario using procedure proxy we are calling. Copy the program, and now let me show you how you will get rid of all this nonsense code, not required at all. Get rid of it completely, not required. Remove it. Bye bye. No problem. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye this. Bye bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. No problem. No problem. Remove this. Bye bye. Everything goes off, and just say call database procedure, your proxy name. What's the proxy name? ZDemo procedure PRX. Procedure PRX. Control space. Press enter. It generates a signature. It's just exporting out a var out, which is an importing for you, and just take this in a LT table. That's it. Done. Game over. Game over, guys. That's it. And to create this LT table, bye bye, 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 and just come here and say type data, your declared table, type table of your interface which was generated. This is your proxy interface. Use this interface equals to greater than the type which was created for your variable output. That's it. Wow, amazing. Thanks to NetWeaver 7.5. Thanks to NetSoy 7.4 makes it possible, Makes it quite easy for me to call a procedure, database procedure using procedure proxy. Amazing stuff. Let's activate it. We are done. All the logic is in database. It's just going to pull the data and display it to you. So easy. Execute it. You're going to see your result. Customer tagging is in place. 224 millisecond first hit. Let me see. Again, if I call it, hopefully the time should come down. 78. Yes, it is. I'm not sure how my training system is behaving. I'm not able to show you guys the real value of using SAP HANA DB. This is a training system, and I don't know the runtime. In fact, OpenSQL is showing less as compared to what we are doing. The innovative things, coding, doing a code push down to DB is taking more time. I don't know, some problem with my training system, the Scal based server, but hope you are guys able to catch where we are going slowly. Okay. Okay, there's a question here. What's the difference between view proxy and procedure proxy? Can anybody tell me the difference between view proxy and procedure proxy? Look at the diagram. The difference is pretty clear. Shilpa has got the answer. Of course, right. View proxy is used for information models, your attribute views, your analytical views, your calculation view. If you want to consume them in a app, use view proxy. You cannot call a procedure via view proxy. Similarly, the procedure proxy is a proxy of HANA database procedure. You cannot call an analytical view using procedure proxy. Hope that answer your question. The difference between view proxy and procedure proxy. The objects are different. The underlying database objects are different, which you actually call using these proxies. Is that clear? Is that difference clear? Difference between view proxy and procedure proxy. Okay, so the first disadvantage we already saw. What is the next disadvantage? In fact, I talked about this disadvantage in the past class when I taught you the procedure, the view proxy, guys. Can anybody tell me what is the disadvantage of using this? Let me take you back to the PPT which I was actually showing you long time back for that purpose, and hopefully you guys will remember something with that PPT. Let me just show you that. Perfect answer. Transport is the biggest problem. Okay, transport becomes a big problem for you actually if you do this. See here, information model, you created a procedure proxy. This is your development and quality system setup. So in your development system, you created a procedure proxy. You created first a information model, then you created a procedure proxy, and you transported the procedure proxy, but you forgot to transport your information model. What will happen in quality? What will happen in quality? If you transported the proxy object, but you forgot to transport your underlying HANA database object, what will happen? Boom. Of course, boom will happen. Nothing else. It will say underlying HANA information model not found. That is the disadvantage of using proxy based object implementation. Okay. Lifecycle management is a challenge. Is that clear to everybody? What is the challenge? Lifecycle management is a challenge. You always have to keep both the objects in sync. Point one. You also make sure that your HANA object is also transported along with your ABAP object. Is that clear to everybody? Lifecycle management is also a challenge when it comes to proxy objects. So this is the second disadvantage. Lifecycle management via transport is a problem when it comes to proxy object. Okay, when it comes to proxy object. So one way to simplify is use a single transport. Okay, use a single transport in which you lock your proxy object and also your database object. So in database, we basically create a delivery unit in HANA DB. So delivery unit is like a transport in ABAP. Okay, so we create a delivery unit here, and this delivery unit, with this delivery unit, we can actually create in your ABAP system a new type of artifact called HANA transport container. Okay, and this HANA transport container can be sent to the quality system combining the delivery unit which has your views, which has your proxy object, everything, and this can be attached to the same transport to which your proxy object is attached. Okay, so we can create a HANA transport container object in ABAP system starting NetWeaver 7.4, because proxy objects are also available starting NetWeaver 7.4 onwards, and lock our HANA delivery unit, with the help of HANA transport container into the same transport. Once this transport is reaching to the quality system, it will unpack your proxy object, it will unpack your HANA object. Okay, it will unpack both of it together. So that's where you are logically creating one packet which is complete by itself. Okay, you're logically creating a packet which is complete by itself, which is self-containing, both the HANA related objects and both the ABAP related objects. Hope this is clear for everybody. What is HANA transport container and how can we create it? Let's see. How can we create a HANA transport container which will transport your objects related to both your ABAP related object, of course, and your HANA related. So main target here is the HANA related objects. So we will be transporting our HANA related objects here actually. Okay, we will be transporting our HANA related objects here. Clear? So let me see if I can just give a kind of glow to this guy. So that's what you got to do. Same transport using HANA transport container. It will carry your procedure proxy. So we already saw how to lock procedure proxy in a transport. If you give a proper package, it will lock it. Let's see how to create a HANA transport container and then put the delivery unit of HANA into this transport container and then send it. So first let's create a delivery unit in SAP HANA. So what we have done by far, let's go to SAP HANA perspective, and we have created all our artifacts inside a package. You can see sales package. So I will create a delivery unit in SAP HANA for this sales package. Let me do that. So for that, I need to switch to the instant view of SAP HANA. So I will go to window, show view, and other, and then I think we have a default view. Let me just reset the perspective. We will get that view actually. Welcome view is that the welcome view for SAP HANA Studio, where we actually get the list of options. Yes, correct. This is the view we will use. Or where did it go? Okay, let's bring it back again. Welcome view, and I will go to uh, open administration, open modeler. Let me go to the modeler. And you can see now this HANA modeler view over here, quick view. This is called quick view actually. I missed the name. So you can open the quick view also from here, show view and quick view. This is how you can open the quick view. And here you can create delivery unit. So let's create a delivery unit which transport all my artifacts which are there in HANA. And then later on we create a packet which is HANA transport container. Put this delivery unit inside that packet, and that packet goes along with my transport what I'm going to release to the quality. So click here to delivery unit, select your DB system next, and I will create a new delivery unit for all my artifacts which I created in my HANA package. Okay, all my views, all my procedures, everything whatever is created should be ideally in a package, and that package, for that package we create a delivery unit, and that we will put it along with ABAP transport where my proxy objects are being transported to quality. Okay, so let's do that. Click on next. It's taking a little bit of time. We'll quickly see how we can create it. Or what you can also do, typically if you have a separate database developer in your company, they will create delivery unit for you. You just ask them what is your delivery unit, so that you can lock their delivery unit along with your proxy transport which is carrying all the proxy objects. Okay, so typically in a company you have separate developers for HANA related stuff, separate developers for ABAP related stuff. So ABAP on HANA consultant mainly work with ABAP related stuff, not related to HANA. But in this course I actually showed you both. You can actually become an all-rounder. You can indeed go into their shoe, create information model, create SQL script procedure, create everything. I taught you actually HANA also in this course along with ABAP on HANA, not just ABAP. Okay, typically if you look at ABAP on HANA course, anybody, you will go with any course, you will see trainer will only cover ABAP related stuff, which is like kids like job. Kids can also do it, creating a proxy object. It's very simple. The real game comes into picture when you go getting into system and code OIA like scenario in a procedure. Okay, that's a real true teaching, true learning, guys. Okay, let's come here, create a new delivery unit, and I name it as Anubhav, and then I'm just gonna give the name whatever you like. You can give it, click on OK, and then a new delivery unit gets created. So let's see, it is creating it. Yes, you can see it's created and it has no packages right now into it. I click on add and add my sales package, which has all my database objects. So sales package, click on finish and click on finish. A delivery unit got created in HANA, which has all my relevant objects for which I have created proxy objects. Okay. So once this is done, you can now come back to your ABAP perspective and right click here, new ABAP, and create HANA transport container. There you go, HANA transport container. And here you give a package, actually the package in which you stored your procedure proxy, your view proxy, that package you give here. Okay, and then you give your HANA delivery unit name, and it's Anubhav, Anu, and do control space. It should ideally show me. Yes, you can see here is my delivery unit. You can say finish. If you say next, and if you're given a productive package, it will ask you the transport request. Put the same transport request in which you had put your proxy objects. Okay, single transport carries both HANA objects along with your proxy objects, so you will not face difficulties in quality system when it reaches. Is that clear to everybody? How do you create it? Now what happens tomorrow? Let's say you change something in your HANA objects. You can again click on this button called take snapshot and save. It will update your HANA transport container with latest objects which are there in your HANA package. Okay, and then you can again include it in a transport and release it according to changes. So one limitation with this is you cannot add delta. You have to add the whole delivery unit into HANA transport container. If you want a single package of the entire delivery unit to be transported, it is not possible. Whole delivery unit will go as part of your HANA transport container. Let's say a delivery unit contain 10 packages and you say I want only 3 packages to be transported via this delivery unit. Not possible. Create another HANA transport container with another delivery unit which has only those 3 packages. So that's the only limitation, or I would say the condition here to create HTC container. Okay, and then you can of course lock it in the same transport and release it. Now there's another challenge. There is another challenge. Can anybody tell me what will be the name of schema in SAP HANA database? What will be the name of schema in your SAP HANA database? What will be the name of schema in your SAP HANA database system where your SAP system is connected? Incorrect answer, Shilpa. What is the naming convention? So here my development system name is A4H. Okay. My development system name is A4H. Okay. What about my quality system? Do you think my quality system name will also be A4H? So you have A4H. So in SAP HANA, you have SAP A4H. Okay. What will be your quality system name? Typically Q4H. Okay, if A4H is by development, Q4H will be my quality system. What will be the schema name in underlying HANA DB connected to this system then? Anybody? What will be the schema name in your SAP HANA database for this SAP Q4H? हो गया ना problem? What will you do? Do you understand what kind of problem is this? It's a very big problem, because you are referring all your objects, you're talking to all the objects always with SAP A4H, not Q4H. The moment your transport reaches here, it is bound to fail, because now it won't find this schema SAP A4H, because you have used actually everywhere A4H, A4H. So for that, in HANA, we have a concept of schema mapping. When ABAP sends the object to SAP quality system, it doesn't take care of this schema name. Okay, it doesn't care about the schema name. Instead, it relies on a schema mapping where you will map the name of the schema with respect to a common name. So you will give an alias name to this A4H schema in ABAP system. Let's call ABAP. So ABAP equals to A4H in development, and ABAP equals to Q4H in quality. This is schema mapping safeguard your artifacts to which will probably fail when your schema names are different between, which will be in fact between dev and quality. And where is that schema mapping is maintained? It's maintained at HANA level. If you quickly go to HANA a development perspective and quick view, once again let me go to quick view and come down, you will see something called schema mapping. Scroll down and you see schema mapping over here, and let's select the database system, and you will see here what name ABAP system has mapped to the HANA schema. Over here you see ABAP equals to SAP A4H. What will happen? An opposite of this happens in quality. When it is unpacking the object, it checks what is the schema ABAP. That refers to SAP Q4H. So whatever it is creating, the procedure or the view, whatever it has to create now in HANA, underlying HANA DB, it creates in that particular schema. Okay, so this schema mapping is important when you're working with multiple systems, basically your dev, quality, and production, where your HANA system schema, which is connected to ABAP system, is having different name. So this schema mapping safeguard your delivery, safeguard the creation of underlying objects in the system. Hope this is clear. Very important interview question. How does the schema is managed by ABAP? Because when your ABAP system connected to SAP HANA system, currently it's a dev system. So schema name is SAP, your system name. When it goes to quality system, it will again be SAP and the quality system name, which is probably Q4H. So ABAP takes care of, your HANA takes care of it, mapping between the actual HANA database schema with ABAP related ABAP system related schema. Okay, that's called schema mapping concept. Very small concept, not really important, managed by database administrators, not even by you as an ABAP on HANA consultant, but yes, important to remember, because this could be an interview question or could be a certification question when you're going for certification. Is that clear to everyone? What does the schema mapping means? Okay, let's move on. So now we saw these disadvantages. Still these disadvantages remains in the system. You have to do a lot, because point one, you have to have a bottom up approach where you first create these, synchronize them, also make sure the transport doesn't get fail in quality because your dependent objects are not available. Correct? So all this can be solved with a new approach called top down approach. In case of a top down approach, what we exactly do, we do the other way around. We flip the pyramid and we do a top down approach. Can anybody guess now what is top down approach? The top down approach says, let me copy the same picture. It says that you create object in ABAP system. Okay, you create a view in ABAP system, you create a procedure in ABAP system. Okay, you create everything in ABAP system. Okay, and lock it in the transport in ABAP system. So you create something called a CDS view in ABAP system, and you create something called AMDP, ABAP database procedure. Okay, ABAP managed database procedure in ABAP system, and lock it in a transport. Once this transport reaches to the quality, and when you activate in development, the moment you activate a CDS view, system is going to create a database view automatically in HANA DB. When you activate your AMDP, basically when you execute your AMDP for first time, it creates a stored procedure in HANA DB automatically. Now, when you lock it in a transport and release to quality, once this object reaches to the quality system, okay, this transport reaches to quality system, what happens, same process happens. The moment activation happens for CDS view, a DB view gets created. The moment your AMDP is called for the first time, a database procedure got created. So you don't have to take care of lifecycle management, neither you have to take care of synchronization. This is called top down approach. Okay, This is called top-down approach, and this is possible with SAP NetWeaver 7.4 SP05 onwards. Is everybody clear? What is NetWeaver 7.4 SP05 onwards possible? You have a top-down approach, a more simplified and a better approach to create these artifacts to do your code push down, and that's only possible thanks to CDS view and AMDPs, and that's what you will see used in SAP S4 HANA. Those who are working in S4 HANA, you will see these artifacts. CDS view and AMDPs are the most popular artifacts in ABAP system, completely managed by ABAP system. Their life cycle is managed by ABAP system. No synchronization required. They are created in ABAP system using ABAP development tools, ADT. You cannot use SAP GUI once again for creating them. You have to use ADT. And then when you lock it in transport and release, or when you activate and run them for the first time, they correspondingly gets created into HANA database. Your architecture is simplified, the way you create object is simplified, no need of synchronization, and when its complete life cycle is also simplified. Is that clear to everybody? What is exactly the main advantage of top down approach? And what is exactly a CDS view or an AMDP? A CDS view is just a view which is when activated creates a information model. We don't care about what information model it creates, but it creates an information model or a view in actual HANA DB. AMDP is a procedure. It's basically a ABAP managed data procedure. When it is called for the first time, it automatically creates a procedure in underlying HANA database when you call it for the first time. Similarly, when you release, lock them in a transport, they are ABAP related artifacts. When you release them, it reaches to quality, unpacks the transport, automatically these objects gets created in underlying HANA DB of quality system. You have got a uh, simplified setup now. Okay, is that clear to everybody? So with that, we close today's class. In the next session, when I will start with ABAP managed data procedure. We will build our open item analysis scenario using an AMDP. We'll talk about AMDP in detail. We will create an AMDP for our open item analysis scenario. We'll look into the limitations, possibilities, preconditions, syntax, disadvantages, runtime errors, exception handling, everything about AMDP in our next class, building a real-time open item analysis scenario using AMDP. This code, what you have done here, is going to be a reference for us. I also missed one topic by far, which was in fact two topics. One topic which I missed is calculation view using scripted calculation view. That is one topic which is pending. Second topic which is pending is I remember I told you guys some time back that I will show you uh, the attribute view which is having hierarchy to integrate with an Excel sheet. So that is also pending. And one more topic today, which El Hadi asked, how to use a procedure, how to call a procedure by another procedure. That is three topics which are pending on my name. When the right time comes, I'm going to touch upon all of these three topics. Don't worry, I have not forgot anything. I will remember it. I will post it definitely. Let me quickly copy the programs in the meantime into notepad files and then give you these notepad files. So whatever ABAP programs we have created, one was this one. So using a procedure proxy. So this is the program name. Let me save this quickly on my desktop so I can give this program before I shut down the server. Oops, did it close? I don't know. Let me check. Okay, it's still there. I did not shut down still. So let me just go ahead and copy these programs. Any questions? Anybody? What a class. Amazing, isn't it? You need to remember this flow. 7.4, what was before 7.4, after 7.5, and 7.4 SP5. This flow you need to remember. Very important from the point of interview. Okay. So let me just connect quickly back and open our. I will take up the questions. Just give me a second. Before that, let me quickly copy the program which we have written. Now, of course, I cannot give you the procedure proxy, guys. That is not possible for me to give you the procedure proxy. Okay, because that is something you can create it quite easily. There are a lot of tutorials also on YouTube, but that's not a big deal. Creating procedure proxy or creating these things are not a big deal. Big deal is writing SQL script, because that's the main thing what as a developer you can do uniquely as compared to somebody else. Why it's not copying? Yeah, now it copied. Yes, you can export all the HANA artifacts. I will do that right away. I will basically create, guys, a delivery unit and export it and put it in our blog. I will show you how to export a delivery unit right away. Just give me a second. You can import that delivery unit in your system, and all the artifacts which I had created, including the views and stuff like that, they all will be created automatically for you in your system, your HANA database. Okay, I will do that right away. Just give me a second. So OIA ADBC procedure we invoked, and then we have to use OIA procedure proxy. That's the one which I missed it. Copy and paste it over here, this program, and store it and save this file. Procedure proxy I already copied. Okay, then which one we missed? Why demo ADBC procedure, correct, this one we missed it. Tomorrow's class is going to be very interesting. We will talk about AMDPs and CDSV also. We will start, guys, in tomorrow's class. Very interesting session. Please don't miss tomorrow's class. I know you are in the festival mood. You want to enjoy. Definitely you can enjoy, but please join tomorrow's class. I worked so hard to prepare tomorrow's class, ADBC. In fact, I was planning to cover it ADBC today. Sorry, AMDP today, but unfortunately it took more time. And if I start it, I will not be able to complete it. Okay, so just one second. Let me look at the questions. I'm not able to access study material. Please drop me an email. I will check it. Can we export HANA artifacts? Let me show you. So go back to SAP HANA Studio and just go to modeler perspective, window, show, quick view once again, and let me export our delivery unit out. So choose export, and I say delivery unit I want to export, and the one which I created name Anubhav, I'm going to export that and upload it into the project. You guys can import it in your HANA DB. Remember, your schema name should be according to that. You have to have a SAP A4H schema, because delivery unit works like that actually. So you need to be a little careful when you are importing them back. Make sure that your database table has all the data, all these things, basic things you need to take in mind. So select this. 45 minutes exercise every day, guys, remember, very important for life. Okay, just give an alias name. This is the package. I'm saying next. You can import it the same way. Okay, you can import it, Shilpa, the same way. So I'm exporting it to a client on my desktop. I will upload it, and I just name this as all HANA objects. Okay, DL, delivery unit, DU. Next, I'm exporting it to my client, my computer, and you have to do opposite process. Just do an import, it will bring in. Okay, it will bring in fact, you know what I did? I went to this ABAP on HANA server. I have my local HANA instance installed in my local computer, mini version of HANA. So this schema what you see now here, this OIA scenario, I had downloaded this whole thing as a delivery unit. So you see SAP BC EPM OIA, this whole package I created a delivery unit and downloaded in my local computer, and then I uploaded in my local HANA database. So I can look into these artifacts, I can understand the procedures, I can understand the views, the way they created. All that I've done it in my local. So I don't waste my money on Cal, because Cal is little costly, $1 an hour. It is little costly. If you look at the monthly uses, it will go beyond like kind of $200 or something for me. So this is why I had exported this entire OIA as a delivery unit and loaded in my local stuff. Okay, so that's what I have done. That way I can actually look at these objects in a well manner. Of course, I have a problem running the artifacts because I don't have this SAP A4H schema in my local system, but at least I can look at the code. If you look at it, has lots of procedures also. So these procedures are very helpful for me to learn SQL script. So that's what I have done. So I have exported, you see here dfgme, you will see some procedures. So I can look at the code of this procedure at least in my local computer, in my local HANA server, because I had exported this as a delivery unit from here, and then I did an import in my local HANA server as a delivery unit, and I selected the path. It has loaded the package, and then I can actually go into it and look at least what is that inside these objects. Very helpful technique, and of course cost saving. Okay, cost saving for me, because otherwise I have to keep the cal server on throughout the day as and when I'm learning, and I'm a very slow learner. It takes time for me to learn things, guys, but once I learn, I never forget things. So I don't know, a lot of you are very fast learners. I think I'm the slowest amongst all of you, but if I can learn, definitely you can learn. But it takes time for me at least. Okay, but I don't leave things, anything's unturned. I find every possible resource on internet. I search lot of blogs, I search every possible thing on internet to learn thing until I reach to the depth of it, and then I collect all this information from all the sources, prepare my own material, prepare my own study style, and that's what I bring it into the classes for all of you. So if you read through it, if you go through it, these kind of examples, you would not find it difficult to relate it with other things what you see around you. Please give 10 minute only introduction on machine learning and IoT as request. Let me look at that. Right now I'm not an expert on that. If I start teaching machine learning, it will become the whole night will go away, because I'm right now into the phase of learning algorithms like gradient descent. There is a linear exponential, there is smoothie algorithm, there are different algorithms in machine learning. So I would recommend, highly recommend you to take a free course on Coursera from a machine learning expert called Andrew Ng. This is the trainer name. I can show you quickly. You guys can subscribe that course. It's absolutely free on internet, Coursera. So machine learning, this guy will teach you algorithms of machine learning. Okay, Andrew is a very good guy. He is an expert of machine learning. So you can go and subscribe this free course. This is what I am taking, guys, right now, this his course, and that will be definitely help you to do things better. So he's teaching actually algorithms, and he's also teaching things on Python to actually apply them in the real world. So first learn algorithms. If you want to get started with machine learning, subscribe this course from Andrew, and there are nice video tutorials for that. You can go with this to get started with machine learning is the future. If you are in machine learning, get ready to fill your account with lots of dollars. Okay, that's the future. Machine learning is the future, guys. Every company is moving towards now this machine learning, data science, complex algorithm, predictive analytics, IoT. These are all the future, and believe me, I will bring this future to all of you. Give me some time. I'm preparing myself, but it should make sense for me to start the course in a way that you can understand, that any general person can understand. It takes a lot of time and effort for me to prepare something so that you guys can understand. Okay, so can we export HANA artifact? That's what I showed you just now, how to export HANA artifact. That's what I showed you. Put it in a package and export the delivery unit and lock that package in the delivery unit. That's how you can export it. I will put it in the blog. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow at the same time. Have a nice day and goodbye, guys.